Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad to have you all here tonight. It's going to be a great program, just a great show. Plenty to talk about, some exciting news today and a lot to comment on, so hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Away we go.
Century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything will be all right. Put back the hand.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses. We need a government of action. All righty. Welcome, everybody. We're broadcasting right now on the internets. The internets. I'm President George W. Bush. I believe that there's this thing called the internets, and we're broadcasting over the internets. People are watching us on the internets. I remember that. Who will ever forget President George W. Bush? And he would talk about the internets. The internets. We got the internets. Was classic. But anyway, I'm here with all of you tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We got big news to talk about, big developments in the sections of the world that we all pay attention to. So the way this goes, I give my opening remarks. While I give my opening remarks, I am writing down your super chat questions. So keep the super chat questions rolling in. I'll be writing them down as they come in. And then from there, we do a roll call to find out who it is that's on the other side of the camera, who is watching this live. We find out who is here, who is watching this on the internets. And then after that, I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. So keep the super chats rolling in, and we should have a great program here tonight. Should be awesome. Hit the like button. Make sure to tweet this out. Make sure you're subscribed. They are messing with us on the subscriber count. Some weird stuff is going on. I keep finding out there's people who watch this all the time who suddenly find out they're unsubscribed or aren't getting the notifications. So make sure you crunch the notifications bell. Make sure you are absolutely subscribed. Don't let them mess with you. Don't let them mess with you. Silicon Valley is absolutely messing with us. The Silicon Valley fascists, the tech overlords, Lex Luthor Bezos and Lex Luthor Mark Zuckerberg and Eric Schmidt. They don't like us. So we're doing the best we can to make sure that we get to as many people as we can. This goes up on a lot of different platforms. I'm not going to list them all off because that'll only make our problem a little bit worse. We're doing shorts now. I'm uploading a lot of different shorts, which is very helpful, right? Running shorts, biker shorts. I'm just kidding. No, but we're uploading a lot of different shorts, and I think that's good. But make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. So now I'm going to jump into my opening remarks for tonight. So I don't know if you all heard, the big news today is that Dr. Cornel West is running for president of the United States, which I think is excellent. I think it's tremendous. He made this tremendous campaign announcement today. This is Dr. Cornel West.
In these bleak times, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter in the quest for...
Yes, the People's Party. I am exhilarated. You know, we at the Center for Political Innovation, we do not endorse any candidate, and we will not campaign for any candidate. And we want to engage with people all across the political spectrum. Our members go to RFK meetups and talk to people there. Some of the members of our community, you know, shout out to Lori and others. They are really on board with RFK. Shout out to them. But we also have members of our community that are MAGA all the way, want to see Donald Trump get reelected. We also have members of our community that are hanging out with Marianne Williamson. We have members of our community that abstain from voting. You know, we CPI are not politically aligned, but the People's Party, we worked with the People's Party to put on the Rage Against the War Machine rally in Washington, D.C., which was an amazing experience. Nick Brana, the chair of the People's Party, who is just an amazing, dynamic person all around. He has come to CPI events. So the fact the People's Party is going to run a big name like Cornel West, the well-respected academic, the author of Race Matters and Democracy Matters, longtime advocate of socialism and healthcare for all, and an outspoken figure from Union Theological Seminary talking about civil rights and all of that. This is a great development.
Truth, I enter into quest for justice, and the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life. I come from a tradition where I care about you. I care about the quality of your life. I care about whether you have access to a job with a living wage, decent housing, women having control over their bodies, health care for all, de-escalating the destruction of the planet, the destruction of American democracy. Democracy creates disruption. It creates an eruption. It creates an interruption. Wide from below, the energies of everyday people is manifest. And I know there are precious people in your life who you care for. That's why it's important for you to be involved, important for you to participate. We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech. Neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean? Well, I know gangsters when I see them. And gangster's not a subjective expression. It's an objective condition. Do we have what it takes? We shall see. But some of us are going to go down fighting, go down swinging with style and a smile, accenting the best in you and trying to tease out the best in me. Let's do it together.
Wow. It's really happening. It is really happening, folks. Dr. Cornel West is running for the presidency of the United States. And I'm thrilled. I am absolutely thrilled that this is happening. I think anybody running against Biden in this upcoming election is a good thing. We don't endorse any candidate, but I think this is a great development, a tremendous, tremendous development. He's running on the People's Party ticket. And look, I got to tell you, I think I have met Cornel West once or twice in my life. I've been at events where he's at and stuff. But, probably the most intimate connection I have with Cornel West is at one point, one of my roommates was arrested with Cornel West in a civil disobedience, protesting stop and frisk. Do people know what stop and frisk is? It used to be in New York City. They had this policy that was in effect where the police could stop you and pat you down for weapons at any time without a warrant, right? And that completely violates the U.S. Constitution. The police do not have a right to search you without a warrant, right? I mean, if they're going to look in your bag, if they're going to look in your come into your house and search you, they have to have a warrant. There has to be a procedure, right? The Constitution protects us in the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution specifically protects us from unwarranted search and seizure. Not unwarranted in the sense they shouldn't do it, but unwarranted in the sense that the judge has not said that it is necessary to do it. But in New York City, for the longest time, they had stop and frisk, where the police could just pat anybody down at any time. They'd see you, they'd pick people out randomly and pat them down for weapons, which is completely illegal. And it was mainly targeting black people. And the main reason they were doing it was they were saying, well, we don't want there to be guns. We don't want there to be guns. We don't want there to be guns. And, did this stop gang violence or guns in New York City? No, there was plenty of shootings. There's plenty of guns and violence in New York City. The stop and frisk policy of grabbing random people who almost always happened to be black and patting them down for weapons, that did not change the policy. So Cornel West and a number of people, they were involved in some very heroic civil disobedience protests against stop and frisk. And one of my roommates was arrested in those protests. And they went to trial, and it was very exciting. It was important. It was an important piece of activism that they were engaging in. And they talked about, Cornel West testifying on the witness stand and all that. It was a really important development. And I mean, Cornel West, I don't agree with some of the stuff he says about Iran, and I don't agree with him on everything, of course. And I mean, again, we don't endorse any candidate here, but he's largely a good figure. And during the Obama years, he represented a figure in the black community who was holding Obama's feet to the fire, calling out Barack Obama for the disappointment that he was, emphasizing and setting the stage for the Bernie Sanders surge, demanding Medicare for all, free healthcare, free college for all. He's a longtime member of the Democratic Socialists of America, a well-respected academic, who was in academia, criticizing capitalism and raising issues around racism and such. And I think this is a great development that he's running. He's going to run against Joe Biden in the 2024 election, right? So now we've got RFK running against Joe Biden. Social media is already being rigged. Social media is already being rigged against RFK, and they're taking YouTube channels down. And RFK, it's important to note, RFK has made a point of saying that Sirhan did not kill his father. I mean, the interviews that RFK has given, he's speaking up and saying that the CIA killed his father, and he's speaking up about various issues related to Big Pharma and other things. And they are, even though he's pro-Israel, which I am not, and he took back his support for Roger Waters, RFK is doing a good thing by running. I think it's a really good thing that RFK is running. Marianne Williamson, she's doing good stuff by running also. Anyone who can speak up, because the woke fascists are all rallying behind Biden at this point, right? You're either with him or against him. It's like the Bush years, right? They don't care if you're left or right. They think anyone who runs against Joe Biden is a Nazi, and just today, social media exploded with attacks on Cornel West and on the People's Party. And we don't approve. We don't approve of that. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things on this stream, but I saw this video by Krystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, and I was just disgusted. And so I'm going to put on here their response to Dr. Cornel West announcing that he's going to run for president was to just go on a tirade against the People's Party, a disgusting tirade against the People's Party. And this video is awful. It's absolutely awful. We're going to play some of it here. I don't know if we're going to go through all the way through it, but it's like there's just so many layers of dumb shit said in this video. I don't know where to begin.
Apparently Cornel West is running for president. Now, he's not running as a Democrat. He's not running in the Green Party. He's not even running as an independent, although I think that might be a little up in the air depending on the structure of the party he's actually running for.
First of all, I skipped ahead in this video because I didn't even want to show you the beginning. This whole video just reeks of, you can tell that Krystal Ball and Kyle Kalinske, they see themselves as beautiful people. You know, they're not dirty activists who go organize things and all of that. They're superstars with their sunglasses, and they're just so cool, and they're just so much better than all of us, right? I mean, it's the smug that comes out of these people. This is how they get people to be sellouts, is they start blowing smoke up their ass, and they feel all special, right? And they inflate their social media, they rig the algorithms to make their social media big, and they start walking around, oh, I'm so important. Look at us. We're so important. So they're driving down the road with their sunglasses on, making a video for Secular Talk, reacting to Cornel West running for president of the People's Party ticket. Oh, they're just so special. They're just so important. They don't dirty themselves with third parties and protests and organizing and getting people out there. They're important social media people. It's this scummy attitude. And I've seen this before. There are people that, you know, are legit, you know, anti-imperialist activists and others, but then suddenly somebody gets to them, they sell their soul to the devil, and suddenly they are so important. It's this smug importance. And that's what this whole video just reeks of, right? I mean, Dr. Cornel West announced he's running for president, which is an important thing because Biden's presidency is an absolute train wreck. An absolute train wreck. And are they going to support this? No, but they are so important. They're driving down the road and they are just going to give us this smug. Here we go.
But he's running in the People's Party. Now, for those of you who don't know, the People's Party was created, I believe it was after the 2016 race of Bernie. A staffer for Bernie by the name of...
Many people, not just a staffer for Bernie, but many people in the Bernie Sanders campaign saw that the Democratic Party was rigged. They were furious. They were at the convention. They were outraged. They saw that the Democratic Party was rigged. And many, many people, they formed Movement for a People's Party and eventually formed the People's Party, a new party outside of the Democratic Party. No, it wasn't just one guy. It wasn't just one guy. So even right there, you can tell how smug these people are being.
Nick Brana decided he was going to create this third party. So they've been around since, I don't know, 2016 or 17 or 18.
Right, look how he's framing it. He already is making it sound like one guy, right? And this shows you this is how they operate, right? They pick one person to be like the poster child for something, and then they smear that person. And then they just throw as much feces and garbage at that person as they can. And that's what they're doing, because everybody loves Cornel West. So they're not going to go after Cornel West here. They made it sound like one guy started the People's Party, which is a lie. And now they've said his name, and now they're going to make this all just about this one guy and why you're supposed to hate this one guy because the internet said so.
Latest, something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been around since then. They don't have ballot access, and they've never gotten a candidate elected.
Yeah, because they're new. They didn't fully form as a party until 2020, mind you. They were the Movement for a People's Party, so they haven't been. And this is the first presidential cycle that they've had a candidate. They weren't even. They were formed basically in opposition to the Democrat National Convention in 2020. So you're just oh, this is the first. They don't have anyone elected to. They just started. This is the first presidential election cycle that they've been in existence as a party. Like, grow up. I mean, it's just so much of this, just anything to show them in a negative light.
So, and then there's been all this reporting and all these questions around the structure of the organization.
What does that mean? What does that mean? There's been all these questions about the reporting. It's like he's not naming anything specific because he doesn't know anything, because he's just trying to cast suspicion in your mind. He doesn't say anything specific. Oh, there's all these questions. There's all this, this is how you can tell. This is how smears operate.
There's all sorts of like sexual harassment allegations against
all sorts of there's one person who said one thing and it's bullshit. There's all sorts. There's one person who said one thing and it's bullshit.
Nick Brana, there was some sort of like a coup of the leadership positions that Brana did.
No, there was an attempt to make them a pro-big pharma party. And Nick Brana and all them resisted the coup. And afterwards, the people who lost decided to go on a character assassination attempt against Nick Brana while they cozied up to the squad in the DNC. That's what happened, right? There was not a coup. There was an attempted coup that failed by pro Big Pharma, pro squad Democrats. They lost. And afterwards, then they unloaded all kinds of allegations and started, spewing crap at Nick Brana. That's all that happened, right? And it was one person who was dating Nick Brana, and since dating him has decided. It started out that, he shouldn't have dated anybody in the organization, which, I mean, there's something to be said for that, right? People make mistakes, myself included, right? You got to keep your love life, your romance life out of your organizations if you're going to operate, right? Just because of dynamics. So people make mistakes. So they took some people dating in the organization and they took that. And then they turned it into sexual harassment, and the allegations all heated, and it's all centered around one person. And he makes it say there's all kinds of there's one person who consensually dated another person, and then afterwards decided it was inappropriate that they dated him. And they have blown this up into all kinds of outrageous, insane stuff. This is ridiculous. And they're throwing, and what does this have to do with Cornel West running for president? What does to do with it, right? This character assassination against Nick Brana. What does this have to do with it? This is how these people operate, right? There's questions about the structure, no specific allegation. There's all kinds of no, there's not. There's one allegation that is just wrecking bullshit, as Jenny Lynn is accurately pointing out. It's a classic rhetorical trick. They are constructing a public. And it's just this is just classic DNC smear operations, right? Somebody dated somebody and felt bad about that. Ooh, let's turn that into sexual harassment. Ooh, let's turn that into rape. Ooh, let's turn that into them being Nazis. Some people tried to take over the group and failed. Let's turn that into the structure of the group is completely it's like anything they can take to smear, to attack. And they're so important. They're so special because they're driving down the highway with their sunglasses on, and they have big YouTube channels because social media is rigged. Can't stand these people. Cannot stand these people.
Basically, the organization itself is a total mess.
No, it's not. What's a mess is that you guys have turned against it and that social media is rigged, and that anybody who stands up against the war drive, anybody who stands up against it, anyone who stands up against the DNC woke fascist machine gets smeared like this, right? And it's always bullshit. And it's always rumors. It's always innuendo. It's never specific. It's always, it's always bullshit, right? The People's Party is not a mess. They sponsored the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which was awesome. Tulsi Gabbard was there. The Libertarian Party sponsored it with them. I mean, it was amazing, right? Jimmy Dore was there. Max Blumenthal was there. It was amazing, the Rage Against the War Machine rally. They put it all together, and they had to deal with all kinds of harassment from the Department of Homeland Security and all kinds of people who didn't want them to have the event, and they did it anyway. So, the People's Party is not a mess by any means. And they just got Cornel West to be their candidate for president. How in the world can they be a mess if they've been hit with all these smears and innuendo and attacks on the internet, and they still managed to have a huge rally in Washington, D.C. that thousands of people went to? And then on top of that, to top it all off, they just got one of the most respected left-wing black intellectuals to be their candidate for president. How in the world can the People's Party be a mess? That's just, I'm sorry, any organization that's capable of pulling that off. Has the Communist Party done anything close to that in recent years? No. Has the Workers' World Party done anything close to that in recent years? No. Has, name one organization that is doing anything near this, right? And then John McCarthy points out, meanwhile, they want people to vote for rapist Biden. Exactly. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. The People's Party is doing shit. They are really getting shit done. They have national rallies in Washington, D.C. They just got one, probably the most respected black intellectual and left-wing voice in the United States to be their candidate for president. You're calling them a mess? Oh, look at any other left-wing party. Oh, geez, you know, what is the Socialist Party doing shit like this? Oh boy, what about the oh geez, the Spartacist League? I guess name one other left-wing group that is doing anything near what the People's Party is doing on a national scale. Give me a break. And they're a mess. They're a mess. No, you're a mess.
So when it comes to Cornel West, I love Cornel West. We had him on Krystal and Friends.
Yeah, everybody loves Cornel West. And that's why you have to deal with the cognitive dissonance of social media being rigged to tell you to hate the People's Party and them nominating a guy that everyone loves.
He's a hero of mine.
He's a
Oh, he's a hero of yours. He's a hero of yours, right? You know, so many people love him. You don't want to attack him, but that's what you're doing. You're smearing his election campaign. You're smearing the party that he chose to run with.
You do respect him, yeah.
And
we like him. And look at how her face goes down. Look at how Krystal's. Oh yeah, we like Cornel West. They don't like Cornel West. They don't respect Cornel West. No, they don't respect Cornel West. But they know they're not going to gain any points by attacking someone that progressives love. So, oh yeah, we love him. He's a hero of mine. We're so important in our sunglasses. We're so sexy.
Love how he's really good at going into spaces where like people would disagree with him,
yes,
and making himself be really likable and really agreeable while not.
Oh, she totally means that. Yes, he does an amazing job. She's looking down with her sunglasses. She hates Cornel West's guts.
While not like giving up his principles at all.
Yes.
Yes, this is the stuff we practiced saying beforehand because we don't want to alienate everyone who loves Cornel West, but we hate his guts. This is what we,
he did a great job on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's just a very dynamic, charismatic.
I'm sorry. He did a great job on Joe Rogan's podcast. You do realize Cornel West has been around for decades, right? He's been doing stuff since the 80s. He was key in getting stop and frisk ended in New York City, leading acts of civil disobedience. That's what you got. He was good on Joe Rogan's podcast. Really? That's what you got, Kyle. That's what you know about Cornel West. He was good on a podcast one time. This is one of the most well-respected black intellectuals in America, has been arrested many times in civil disobedience protests, as an outspoken advocate of socialism, critic of the prison industrial complex, someone who's been fighting for low-income African-American people for decades. But, he was good on a podcast one time. And we've been told we can't just take a dump on him. We're going to make this about Nick Brana. Okay. Ugh.
Intelligent guy who I happen to agree with on.
Oh my God. Like, so condescending. Yes, he's a very intelligent guy. Why don't you call him well-spoken too, right? He's a well-spoken, intelligent person, right? I mean, this is such condescending white liberal shit. I saw him on a podcast one time. He did a good job. He's intelligent. Yeah, he was intelligent. I was surprised. Black people usually aren't intelligent, but he was good on Joe Rogan's podcast one time. This is the most smug upper class liberal while they're driving their SUV down the highway, mad that someone's running against the Democrats. This most smug white liberal condescending shit I've ever heard,
Probably 90% of policy stuff.
Yeah.
So I love Cornel West.
I love him. I love him. Yes. NPR. I love black people. Right. I mean, that's the trendy thing to do now. That's woke. Right. Black Lives Matter. Word up in the hood.
I love Cornel West.
Oh yeah. I love him.
But honestly,
yes. We love him. We love him. We love black people. That's the hip, cool thing to do now. That's why we're driving down the road in our SUV. That's why we vote for the Democratic Party, because we're totally woke, brother. That is how it is, right? We hate low-income Trump red state people. Trust us. If we could shoot somebody in the NRA, we would totally do it. We wouldn't buy the gun first because gun ownership is totally racist. But oh yes, we love black people. He did a great job, a tremendous job on the Joe Rogan show. When he went on that Joe Rogan podcast that one time, I saw him talk, and it was just utterly amazing. Oh my God, oh my God, let's go drink some latte.
Theory on this, and I'm curious what you think, Krystal, is that I don't think he did, like, I don't think he looked into the People's Party at all.
Right. I just think this black guy is so stupid that he never looked into the party he decided to run for office on. It's not his fault. He's being manipulated by, evil communists, right? It's not the black people that are protesting for their rights. It's those outside agitators from New York City that are coming down there and stirring up the black people. They were all happy before the civil rights movement got going. But, Cornel West is just clearly not intelligent enough to know what party he's running on. It's an evil communist agitator named Nick Brana who manipulated good Cornel West into doing what he's doing. We love Cornel West, but he's been duped. He's been duped into doing this. Good Cornel West would support Biden, but I mean, this is the most condescending, racist, white ass shit I've ever seen.
You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely think it's sort of like a boomer moment where...
Yeah, he's calling Cornel West stupid. Can you believe this? He's basically saying that Cornel West doesn't know what he's doing. Cornel West is a good person, but he never Googled the People's Party like we did. This is really, really fucking racist. I mean, this is really racist. I mean, can you believe this? They're trying to tell us that Cornel West doesn't know what party he's running on. You think Cornel West hasn't heard all the garbage they've thrown at Nick Brana? I mean, this is shocking to me, right? And these are the same people that are always, they're so woke, everyone's racist. These folks, they're saying that Cornel West is too stupid to know what party he's running for president on. It's a boomer moment. He just doesn't know. I mean, this is holy shit.
He was approached and, hey, we want you to run and be our candidate or whatever, which, by the way, is a whole separate question because usually the way these things...
And he was approached, some bad people walked up to good Cornel, who we love, we totally love, we don't hate, and some bad people walked up to him and manipulated him into running for office. They tricked him. He would never have done this. He's a good guy. He's a good person, but some bad people tricked Cornel into running against the Democrats. Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Is you have a fucking primary to determine who your candidate is going to be, and the People's Party apparently just anoints somebody, which is kind of weird if you want to be like, we're the democracy people. Are you really? You just anointed somebody the head of your party. That's not the way you're supposed to have an election to figure out who's going to be the leader. But anyway,
fair point.
I love Cornel West, so that's a side point, but I don't think he knew like about all the issues with the People's Party.
No, he couldn't possibly use Google, right? I mean, Cornel West, the most respected academic who's been teaching philosophy and history for years and is just a well-known organizer, etc., who's one of the founders of the People's Party. He spoke at their founding convention. He just doesn't know what he's doing. No, he doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, he has no idea. And the primary thing, look, the People's Party has known that they have been trying to get various people like Jimmy Dore or others to be their candidate for a long time, right? And that they have been trying to figure this out. And so this is a great step forward for them. They're a small party. They're a new party. And for them to, what are they supposed to do? Like pick somebody else to run against Cornel West so they can have a primary or something? They're a small party. They're trying to get going. This is really something special, folks. I mean, this is, Cornel West, he knows not what he did, right? Cornel West would never run against the Democratic Party. We like him. We saw him on Joe Rogan one time. I mean, he's been manipulated by maniacal Nick Brana, right?
I mean, all it requires is like a Google search and digging a little bit deep and he would have found it, but...
Yeah, but I guess you don't think he's that smart. You just think he's that stupid, right? I mean, you just said yourself, all it would require is a Google search for them to find out all the smears that have been thrown at the People's Party. And you think that Cornel West is not intelligent enough to do that. Like, this is on the level, I don't know if you guys know, but during the civil rights movement, this is important history. It was commonly argued by the Ku Klux Klan and by the white supremacists that the civil rights movement was a Jewish communist conspiracy. That's what they're arguing here, right? That Nick Brana, and is he Jewish? I don't know. That Nick Brana, the Jewish communist organizer, manipulated Cornel West to run for office. He would never do. I mean, this is like an alt-right white supremacist trope right here, right? Nick Brana is a civil rights organizer going down to the South and stirring up the black people. I mean, that's what they're arguing here. This is like something straight out of a Ku Klux Klan pamphlet from the 1950s. That's what they're arguing here. And that Cornel West is just too stupid to use Google. I mean, this is off the charts. This is off the charts.
I guess he didn't do it. And so my guess is he's probably surprised right now at the backlash that's happening online.
No, he's not. Because the backlash has been going on for years. It's been going on. Dude, he's not surprised at all. This is some of the most racist shit. I mean, this is the most condescending, racist bullshit I've ever heard.
There's a decent amount of backlash where people are like, what are you doing? Like, do you know, like, who these people are? And then I see a lot of people making a point, which I think is a fair point, which is like, if you're going to run as a Green Party or an independent, because the Green Party, for example, I think the last election they had ballot access for 48 states.
Yeah, they have a real organization.
Yeah, even like the Libertarians have between like 48 states and 50 and all the states. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the Green Party is completely controlled by, liberals, right? It's a completely woke party with Howie Hawkins. And I mean, oh my God.
So as far as third parties go, the only ones that are even remotely viable, and I use that term loosely, is the Green Party and the Libertarians.
I mean, you also have, DSA out there, which has never fielded a presidential candidate before, but they have, chapters nationwide.
Good Lord. That is such an ignorant statement. Nothing annoys me, I must say, more than people saying this. I mean, this is, how can she say that? How can she say this? Right? I mean, this is, the DSA, they've never fielded a candidate. Yeah, they have. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, were formed in the early 80s as the new communist movement of the 1970s was dying. They are not a party, and they historically have endorsed various Democratic Party candidates. And there have been many Democratic Party candidates. Bernie Sanders is a member of DSA, and he ran, woo. But I mean, that is the height of ignorance. DSA has been around a long time, and they're on there like, rambling about, they all know the history. You don't know the history of Michael Harrington and the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee and the New American Movement. Oh my God, the DSA, they've never run a candidate before. I think they have, and his name's Bernie Sanders. I think they have. They've run many candidates before, and DSA is like an association, not a party. And oh boy.
Organization with some sort of, infrastructure that could theoretically be mustered behind you. So it's perplexing. It's very confusing.
So the DSA strategy is the same as my strategy, which is, you be part of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, but run as a Democrat. Now, why would you run as a
part? It's the same as your strategy, Kyle. Interesting. And also the DSA leadership, have ties to the CIA, and that's very well documented. I mean, it's basically, it was the State Department socialists from the Socialist Party, and they have your strategy, which is just remain a Democrat. And they're smart like you, not like Cornel West, who apparently you think is too dumb to Google anything.
Democrat. It's very simple. In this country, we have first past the post voting, and we don't have ranked choice voting. As long as you have...
Right, and apparently you think you're smarter than... I got to turn this off. I'm getting too angry, and when I get too fired up on these streams, it's not pleasant. But this is some of the most condescending, white liberal, elitist, and, and I don't know. I just don't want to... I don't even want to hear it. But, again, the Center for Political Innovation, we do not endorse any candidate, right? We are independent. There are, people in our group who campaign for various candidates, and we as an organization are independent. However, it has really been an honor, an absolute honor, to have Nick Brana come to our events. And he has spoken at 2 different CPI events, and we were official endorsers of his rally, the rally that the People's Party and the Libertarian Party put on. We were sponsors and endorsers of their rally that they did, the Rage Against the War Machine protest. We were very honored to do it and to put on a reception afterwards with Scott Ritter that we did on February 19th. It was just a really, really great day in Washington, D.C. Yeah, this is Nick Brana. This is when he spoke at our recent CPI conference that we did in Washington, D.C.
I am really, really excited to bring
this is Peter Coffin,
first gentleman onto the stage, the chair of the People's Party. Now, we all know the two big parties in this country, the Democrats and the Republicans, have a stranglehold on U.S. politics. It is very hard for new ideas, new voices, new people to come in and exert some kind of influence. They are holding third parties back. Nick Brana, he is going to come and speak to you about this, and I am so excited. Please put your hands together. Please make him feel welcome. Very excited.
Hey, it's so great to see you all. Is this thing detachable? Yeah, probably, but I guess, I don't know if the camera would catch it. It's great to see you all. It's always. I saw a bunch of you guys in Chicago at the last big CPI get-together. It was also a fantastic event, like Elizabeth talked about. And so it's great to be with you all again. You know, I want to say a little bit to begin with about the Democracy Summit. And so I did some reading before the event on the Democracy Summit, and it turns out they have these 5 pillars of what they're supposed to be fighting for, to achieve from the last kind of summit they did like a couple of years ago. These are great. So the first one is promoting independent media. Promoting independent media. Not a joke. The next one, protecting journalists. Not a joke. After that, fighting corruption. It's a clown show. It's the United States. We all know what the Democracy Summit really is. It's the United States trying to desperately wrangle together whoever they feel is still in their imperial control and dominion for a veneer of legitimacy for this war that they're waging in Ukraine.
Nick is so awesome, by the way. Nick Brana is just such an awesome organizer, such a dedicated person. I mean, this is great.
The third world war that they've started right now, and this desperate attempt to maintain American hegemony in a world where the rest of the world is rising and going right by the United States. I want to tell you something else too. So, and I think you'll find this pretty interesting. So, in case anybody didn't know, CPI and everybody here, we are very much on the radars of the security state of...
Yeah, wait till you hear this. If you didn't know about this, I'm glad he pointed this out in his speech.
The intelligence agencies, of everybody who is trying to suppress us, and I'm gonna tell you just how much so.
This took balls. This really took balls on Nick's part. I hate to be crass here, but this really took courage for him to get up in front of a group of people and spill the beans here. Take a listen to this. This is going to blow your mind.
So, few days before this gathering, I got an email from none other than Homeland Security. That's right. And they wanted to know where the event was going to be. And this was right after I published my tweet saying that I was going to be there. That's right. Not a joke. I'll show it to you later.
And he did. He showed it to me later. The Department of Homeland Security emailed Nick Brana to ask him about our upcoming event, right? And he had the courage to get on the stage and say, all right, U.S. deep state, you want to try to let us know you're monitoring CPI? Well, I'm going to go public with this. Nick Brana is an amazing person. I absolutely love Nick Brana. That took courage on his part.
And so this was a message. It was a message. We know you're going. We know what's going to happen. And we have our eye on you. And that's how threatened they are. And they should be threatened because they know that they don't have a public mandate, a popular mandate. They know that the people aren't with them. If they thought they had any kind of public backing, they wouldn't feel the need to try to threaten or intimidate or send those kinds of messages to people, to activists who are here, who are fighting for a country that doesn't just benefit billionaires and that isn't threatening a nuclear war. So just about a month ago, we organized another event that was very much on their radar. Elizabeth shouted it out. Many others, Rage Against the War Machine.
And you don't know how hard Nick Brana worked to make Rage Against the War Machine happen. You don't know how much stress this man had to deal with. I was in some chat groups and all of this. You guys have really no idea the amount of headaches and anxiety that Nick Brana went through in the lead up to February 19th. Like, this man deserves a medal. You have no idea what a dedicated, heroic anti-imperialist Nick Brana really is.
Like Elizabeth said, it was the largest anti-war demonstration in the United States. Thousands of people joined us. The largest demonstration in almost 20 years since the Iraq War. Incredible. And we immediately saw how threatening it was to the powerful, because right afterwards, we were attacked by MSNBC, not once, but twice. Rachel Maddow attacked us on primetime, and Joy-Ann Reid attacked us too. Ironically, MSNBC, though, had another reporter on the ground who apparently didn't get the memo. And so this reporter did. She was obviously new, didn't know very much about, how MSNBC does things. And so she went there and she actually talked to the people and she said, why are you here? And the responses, of course, were not the caricature that Rachel Maddow and Joy-Ann Reid created. It wasn't, Rachel, for anyone who hasn't seen Rachel Maddow's coverage, you got to see it. It's hilarious, doesn't read a word of the website, doesn't talk to anyone at the event, just sees some Russian flags and says, it's Russia, it's all Russia. They must be completely just pro-Putin, Putin apologists. Well, this other journalist that they sent, she actually talked to people who were at the rally, and they said completely unreasonable things like, we got problems in our communities. And I'm tired of billions of dollars that I pay to our government going to wage wars and kill people abroad. I don't want to start a nuclear war. Someone who had a great sign that I remember that said, nuclear war is really bad climate change. I think that made it into the segment. Another one, Joe Biden is the Nord Stream bomber. That made it into two of them. And we all know, like Arland was talking about, they've changed their story already on what happened with Nord Stream because they're reeling, they're reeling. So now we're supposed to believe that the Ukrainian Justice League, blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Just these rogue Ukrainians that, went and destroyed it, that have the ability, they have this military grade explosives, and they made it to the bottom of the Baltic. But this is the level of the stupidity that they want us to believe, just like they want us to believe that Russia's actual aim here is that, if we don't stop Putin and Russia, in Ukraine. Then they're going to be rolling through Berlin and Paris and Brussels right after that. And then they're going to cross the Atlantic and they're going to be in New York and Kansas City and Cleveland, Missouri. This is the level of stupidity, though, that they expect us to believe. And the corporate media regurgitates it, no matter how dumb it is, no matter what kind of lack of factual basis it might have. And that's why we're really at a point of a crossroads in this country, like Scott was saying. And, you know, I think shout out to Scott, because Scott is an incredible champion for all of these issues, and he has been for decades. And he gets smeared and attacked in so many different ways. The way he stood up to the Bush administration and the media during the run-up to the Iraq War and tried to stop that war, the way he's tried to stop this war, the way he participated in trying to denuclearize the world, everything that he's done, the treaties that have now been undone. And so I told Scott, and Scott, you know, I think you all know Scott wasn't able to speak at Rage Against the War Machine, but that wasn't all of our perspective. I certainly wanted Scott there. That's right. But that's a testament to Scott's character, is because Scott knew that in order for the rally to continue and for the cause, he needed to step back. Did, and that's something that we wanted. But I've talked to Scott and I told him, you know, we are right there with you for organizing in Central Park in June of next year. 1 million people in Central Park. There we go. So I want to say a word about the crossroads that we find ourselves in now. And why independent parties like the People's Party are so important in this moment. We're at a historic crossroads for America and humanity with so many different converging problems. We have the war in Ukraine. We have a change at the scale of that hasn't been seen globally, geopolitically, that hasn't been seen since the Second World War. We have the greatest scale of change and pace of change now with the rise of the BRICS nations, the application of recently Mexico, of course, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Iran, so many different countries. We are seeing and witnessing in real time the birth of a different world. And it's our imperative now in the United States, as the country that is holding that back and fighting against that, we have the potential to offer an alternative. What if an imperial power, instead of going down in the way that other imperial powers have, as Rome, what if it participated in a militaristic conquest, a final last gasp of trying to wage war around any vassal state or any part of the world that now refuses to conform to its imperial order? What if instead in the United States, we actually participated in creating that world of peace and development in the future?
And that is why they hate the People's Party. And that is why they're going after Nick Brana right now. Nick Brana is an awesome guy. I am so glad that Cornel West is running for office. And look, this election coming up is going to be a circus. I don't know what's going to happen, because it looks like they very much want to make this just a referendum where Joe Biden automatically wins, because they don't want Trump to run. They're not going to have any Democrat primary debates. I am curious what's going to happen in this upcoming election. It is going to be a wild ride. So everybody, I'm so glad that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, crush the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. They are messing with us. The subscription, algorithms are being weird. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. And now we are going to do our roll call. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Who is watching? Names and locations. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Who is with us? I will call you all out. We'll do the roll call. We got Lawrence Johnson in Chicago. We got Christian in Bergen County. Zach Brunch in Richmond, Virginia. Jacobs. Is that a location or a name? I don't know, but Jacobs. Colin in Greensboro. JT24 in Mississippi. Nico in San Diego. John McCarthy in San Diego. Steve in Boston. Tak Lee in China. Temple City, California. Chester in England. Jenny Lynn in Cincinnati. Chicago. Oh, it's Jacob in Monroe, Louisiana. Welcome, Jacob, from Louisiana. Pat in Chicago. Jamie in St. Paul. Kieran from San Diego. Nate Dixon from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Craig in Kansas City. Zach in beautiful Seattle. Balthazar in Oakland. Carl in Washington. Alex from Brazil. Dr. Waldorf in Oregon. Ryan in Kansas City. Maddie in California. Mindanao to Midwest, Lumpia Logic. Bob Troy in New York. Ryan in Kansas City. Nova Scotia, Arthur Davis. Briggy in Pennsylvania. St. David's, Bermuda. Panos in Greece. Love Hilton Head. Arthur in Nova Scotia. Tyler in Lyons, Syracuse, New York. Welcome everybody who's watching. Rice from Adelaide, Australia. Palo Alto, California, A1 and A2. Tristan in Maryland. Shout out to you. Clinton Fraser in London. Rick in the small town of Toad, Arkansas. All right. Very good. Somebody from Arkansas. Welcome, everybody. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notifications bell. We got Rebecca in Chandler, Illinois, or Indiana. Chandler, Indiana. Welcome, Rebecca. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Molly in Orange County. Mariah says, happy Monday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. Timoshenko is in St. Louis. Welcome, Tim. And speaking of St. Louis, right? Everyone who's a member of the Center for Political Innovation is about to get an email inviting them to our weekend workshop that we are doing June 23rd and 24th and 25th. It's going to be a 3-day weekend workshop near St. Louis, Missouri. So if you can be there, that would be awesome if you could be there. You have to be a member or a close friend to get an invitation. So if you can be there, go ahead and join the Center for Political Innovation. We'd like to have you join. And that's going to be awesome. And then wait patiently because it's going to be pretty soon, right? It's going to be pretty soon that we announce we're actually going to have an upcoming event in New York City. 2 great lawyers. I know both of them, both great people that I've known for a long time. On names to be announced, might be 3 big lawyers, right? There's a third name that someone else I know that, might be a possible attendee, but it looks like at least 2 very good lawyers. We're going to have an event themed around this great book. And we tried to reach the author of the book. We could not find a way to reach him. We reached out to the publisher. But this great book, it's called The Complicity of Lawyers in the Criminal and Justice System, Unusual Cruelty. It is a book talking about how the legal system unfairly targets low-income people. We are going to have an event themed around this book in which 2 well-respected lawyers that are outspoken in their respective communities from very different communities, not going to reveal who they are yet, maybe even 3 well-respected lawyers, but we'll see. Fingers crossed on the 3rd one, but 2 confirmed so far. It's going to be a great event that we're having in New York City. We're currently in the process of nailing down the venue and confirming the date. And once the date is confirmed, early July, we're going to be having an event about the legal system in the United States, how it's rigged by the ultra-rich, how the legal system unfairly targets the poor. I'm sure Kamala Harris and her connections with the criminal justice system and mass incarceration will definitely be discussed. I'm sure that'll be on the agenda. We'll be talking about that. I'm sure we'll be talking about how that's connected with what the USA does around the world. We're going to have a really awesome New York City Forum book club event. It's going to be great. So that's coming up in early July. And then it looks like in September, we're headed to the West Coast. In September, we're going to be in Portland. So the Center for Political Innovation, the CPI, is on fire right now. We are marching ahead as an organization, and we're doing the best we can to spread the truth in the world of lies, build a community of solidarity dedicated to anti-imperialism, and we're raising the issue of peace on the Korean Peninsula as much as we possibly can, and we are supporting anti-war demonstrations, etc. So now is the time to become a member. Join the CPI so that you can get an invitation to the upcoming workshop and events. Join the Center for Political Innovation. More members are needed. So go ahead and join. We got about 92 dues-paying members at the moment, from what I understand, 92. So we're hoping to hit it up, notch it up to 100, notch it up to 1,000. We're marching ahead. No one can stop us, and we're doing the best that we can. We are aligned with all forces who seek truth, justice, and the truly American way, the Superman politics. We talked about that last night on the stream. We're doing great stuff. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notifications bell. I've got a number of super chats to answer here. But if you got something else you want me to talk about here on the stream, shoot me yet another super chat. As I always remind people, those of you that are watching this live, you are part of the special 1% or 10% who have the ability to nudge and craft this conversation to go the way they want it to go. So because you have that ability, I would urge you to utilize that privilege of being one of the 1% who watches these streams, the 10%, 20% who watches these streams live. And I would encourage you to send a super chat to nudge the conversation about what you want to talk about. So there we go. So on that note, folks, I'm going to start answering super chat questions. Keep them rolling in so I have something to talk about here. First one is about thoughts on the People's Republic of Mongolia. The People's Republic of Mongolia. Well, it's interesting. The Soviet Union emphasized the right of nationalities. Right? That was a really important thing the Soviet Union always emphasized. They had a house of nationalities. Originally, they had their Supreme Soviet, and then they also had their House of Nationalities, where every nationality was represented. And the People's Republic of Mongolia was, I believe it was formed shortly after the Soviet Union was formed. Republic of Mongolia. I believe that the Mongolian Soviet Republic, it was formed in 1924. I believe it was first called the Mongolian Soviet Republic, then it became the Mongolian People's Republic, but it was formed shortly after the Soviet Union was formed, but it was always a separate country. And it gets kind of glossed over in the history of the Soviet Union because it was not the Soviet Union. It was an independent country. And the Mongol people had their own autonomous country. It was formed. Then, it was eventually seized by the the Republic of China. And there's a whole complicated history there. But the Mongol people are a nationality. And that, Putin, in a lot of his remarks, he has been critical of the Soviet policy on nationalities. And he's argued that Lenin was obsessed with emphasizing national differences. Lenin very much was of the belief that they should emphasize oppressed nationalities, emphasize the different languages of different oppressed nationalities, and that Putin argues that maybe he overdid it. And that the Bolsheviks and their obsession with different nationalities in the USSR may have planted the seeds of the USSR coming apart. And it's important to note that when the Soviet Union was dissolved, that the vote to keep the Soviet Union was stronger outside of the Russian Republic. Countries like Ukraine, Moldova, Lithuania, the smaller republics they voted in much bigger numbers to keep the USSR, and that the economic consequences of the USSR were awful throughout the whole former USSR. They were particularly awful, very, very bad in the smaller republics, because those countries had, depended on being tied in with the Soviet economic system for their livelihoods. And that's an important thing to remember as well. Now, Mongolia was not part of the Soviet Union. The Mongol People's Republic, or the Mongolian Soviet Republic, that was always an independent country. But, it came into existence as a result of the Soviet Union and sympathy with the Soviet Union in the early 1920s. And then, it was due to the victory of the Chinese Revolution and a number of different factors that it ultimately, was restored. And, it went, back and forth. It was aligned with the Soviet Union during the Sino-Soviet split. And so there were border disputes. There's a film that was made by the Gang of Four era, the late Mao era, the final years of Mao's life, when they were fighting with the Soviet Union. There's a film they made, The New Czars of Russia, that emphasizes border disputes between China and the Mongolian People's Republic. And, it's a point of contention. So, yeah, it's not something I know a huge amount about, but I do know something about it. And it's a big swath of land that exists, Mongolia. The population, what is the population of Mongolia, right? Because it is a very big country in terms of land, but what is the population of Mongolia? Population of Mongolia. It's only 3 million people, all right? So not a huge population, but a huge swath of land. Very interesting, right? Only 3 million people there. So it's a piece of land that has a lot of territory, but not very many people. But in 1924, they declared themselves to be a socialist country. And then the Republic of China seized them. And then, there's a whole history there. Eventually, they were a Soviet-aligned government. Very interesting history. Very, very interesting history. Next question. And someone says that what Kyle and Krystal were doing was a classic rhetorical trick, a classic rhetorical manipulation that they were doing by framing the People's Party as if it was just one guy and making it all about that guy. And what do you think of that guy? And all about scandals around that guy. Classic rhetorical manipulation we saw from Kyle and Krystal. Well, I think you're absolutely right to say that. You're absolutely right. It was definitely classical rhetorical manipulation. You are right about that. And this is what they always do, right? There's been many campaigns that have been taken out this way, where, basically anybody who goes up against the Democrats, what their strategy is going to be is they're going to find out, they're going to get close to the group that's going up against the Democrats, and they are going to discover some drama of some kind, usually of a sexual nature, and then they are going to put it on the internet, right? And in a lot of cases, the drama that they discover is so ridiculous and irrelevant, but they make it a big deal, and it's long and complicated. Look, I read, there was an Intercept article about this woman who was from the DSA. She was running for office in Washington, D.C. against the Democrats for some office. And you read this article in the Intercept. I started reading it. I couldn't finish the goddamn article. I was just reading this. I'm like, this is just so unbelievably stupid. I am so not interested. It was the woman who was running for office. She texted somebody and she said, I want you to know that I'm attracted to you, but I don't think we should do anything because we're in a campaign together. I just want to make clear that these feelings exist, or something like that. And, maybe she shouldn't have done that. And it turned into a whole big thing where they had to have group therapy meetings about how this made people feel. And one thing led to another. And I just started reading this Intercept article, and I'm just like, I don't care. This is the stupidest shit I've ever read, and I just don't care, right? But that Intercept article got blasted everywhere, and they lost, right? And this is what they do, is they find drama. And they blow it up, and they get everyone's negative feelings out there about it. And it's bullshit. Everything is not a federal case. Everything doesn't belong on the internet, okay? Everything doesn't belong on the goddamn internet. But this is when you have the media and the means of communication on your side. You can take little irrelevant shit that doesn't matter and you can blow it up. Marianne Williamson, great example, right? They unloaded on Marianne Williamson recently because what did she do? She punched a car door. She got mad, at her staff. They screwed up her campaign visit to North Carolina or South Carolina or somewhere, and she punched a car door and she hurt her hand and she yelled at them, and they published all these articles about nothing. They're not about anything. And it's all about, oh, she's got anger issues. Oh, who cares, right? And this is how they operate, right? They don't want to debate issues, right? They don't want to debate the actual issues. They don't want to actually engage with people, right? So all they do, right? All they do is they engage in this petty bullshit, this very petty bullshit. And everyone's tired of it. I mean, people are really, really tired of it. And, and the thing is, this is a lot like alcohol, right? If you don't drink, you drink one drink and it has a big effect on you. But if you start drinking all the time, pretty soon you develop a tolerance. And that's what's really scary about all of this, right? This has happened so much lately. There has been so much of this. So-and-so saw so-and-so. So-and-so is mean to me. So-and-so is abusive to their staff. So-and-so blah, 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 blah. There's been so much of this. So much of this that in 4 or 5 years, no one's going to give a fuck about any of this anymore. And honestly, what happened to Tara Reade, that's legit. You look into the details of what happened to Tara Reade, that really happened, right? And all the evidence is there, the details. Other women have come forward with claims against Biden. It fits everything about Tara Reade's story. There's no innuendo. It's very straightforward. On this date, this happened to me. Here are my other, people that I talked to about it at the time. I filed a report. And they don't take it seriously because it's against Biden. It's against the Democrats, so they don't care. But they do this, right? And, the Biden thing is not taken seriously because it's Biden, but they're doing this so much where they make a mountain out of a molehill and then they ignore real things like what happened to Tara Reade. And I'm just telling you, folks, we're going to get into a situation in 4 or 5 years where no one takes any of this stuff seriously. And that's scary. That's very, very scary, right? It's like the little boy who cried wolf. And pretty soon, actual rape, actual sexual assault, actual people being nasty, awful people are just going to roll their eyes and not care. And that's scary. I mean, that's very scary, but that's what happens when, I believe it's William F. Buckley in his argument with Noam Chomsky. There's a famous moment where Noam Chomsky went on William F. Buckley's show. William F. Buckley is like one of these key neoconservative figures in the 1960s. He's got this mid-Atlantic accent. He's just a smug fellow. And he says to Noam Chomsky, well, if everyone's guilty of anything, if everyone's guilty of everything, then no one's guilty of anything. If everyone's guilty of everything, then no one's guilty of anything. And he's trying to make the point, he's being manipulative. Noam Chomsky says to William F. Buckley, he says, well, I blame everyone for the crimes because we live in a democratic society. We should take responsibility. So then William F. Buckley shoots back with, well, if everyone's guilty of everything, Mr. Chomsky, then no one's guilty of anything. Well, I mean, he's being manipulative. It doesn't apply in the case that Noam Chomsky was talking about, but it is true. If everyone's guilty of everything, then no one's guilty of anything. And if everyone gets accused, if everyone's a Nazi, if everyone's a pedo, if everyone's a rapist, everyone's a white supremacist, pretty soon nobody is. And these people do exist. There are actual Nazis in this world. There are actual pedophiles in this world. There are actual rapists in this world. And by cheapening all these allegations, by making everything into a federal case, You're opening the floodgates. You're opening the floodgates. There's a very good book by Sarah Schulman, Conflict is Not Abuse. And it's true. People fight. People don't agree with each other. And people challenge each other. And people push back against each other. And that's something human beings have always done. But now we've created a culture where it's like the internet just celebrates everyone getting on there and going, I'm a victim. And that's not how you resolve disputes. And it destroys organizations. And, and the weird thing about it, right, is that, we talk about cancel culture, they can destroy people's careers and reputations. But at the end of the day, people just keep going. And that's also scary. It's scary, the cancel culture, and how much of this goes out there and how they target so many people and so many people get hit. It's also scary that at the end of the day, Bill O'Reilly still has a podcast. Bill O'Reilly did awful things, and they weren't, look in the details of what Bill O'Reilly did, right? I mean, it's not he was mean to somebody one time. Bill O'Reilly, some stuff happened, but Bill O'Reilly still got a podcast. He's still Bill O'Reilly. And again, these people, they think that they're accomplishing something. And that's what social media, that's the dirty little secret of social media, right? Is that social media wants you to think short term. This is really important to think about. Social media wants you to think short term. Am I getting likes? Am I getting likes? Am I getting shared? How many people are watching me right now? Oh, how can I make it 10 more? How can I make it 4 more? I'm just telling you, folks. Social media wants you to think about what's happening right now, what's happening maybe tomorrow, what's happening for maybe a week. But many things in this world are not determined by what happens in the short term. They're determined by what happens in the long term. And the result in the long term of a lot of this stuff is not going to be what people want. And it's a lot like what the USA has done with these sanctions. They've sanctioned so many countries. They're like, oh, Zimbabwe, you're going to redistribute the land? You're going to redistribute the land of white farmers 40 years after your revolution like you promised to? Well, we are going to sanction you. Take that, Zimbabwe. Oh, look at the stocks of Zimbabwe. They went down on the stock market. We got you. And in the short term, they hurt Zimbabwe. Right? And they do this to Cuba. They do this to Iran. They do this to Nicaragua. They do this to so many countries, Belarus and Vietnam, and so many countries have been hit with U.S. sanctions. But then, what's happening now? Many countries are joining the BRICS. Venezuela has said that they're joining the BRICS. Japan and Saudi Arabia are both in negotiations to join the BRICS. And one after another, all these countries that they've gone sanctioned, they just keep trading with each other. And pretty soon now there's this whole economy centered around Russia and China. And they ain't part of it. The USA has sanctioned itself out of so many countries. It has locked itself out. And there's this emerging alternative economy rising around the world. Go listen to what Jim Rogers said about why he was investing in North Korea. Because North Korea is going to give up their nukes. And North Korea is going to start trading with South Korea. And North and South Korea are going to start moving toward peaceful reunification. But will the USA be in the process of it? Why? Why should the USA be involved at all? Right? I mean, South Korea does business with Russia and China. North Korea does business with Russia and China. China and Russia and North Korea and South Korea, if they all want to unify, why does the USA have to be involved at all? And that's what the USA is starting to realize. And that's what Donald Trump, just being a smart businessman, was realizing. Donald Trump was looking at what was going on in the Korean Peninsula, and he's like, it's moving in that direction. And we can be part of it or not. And, and that fits everything that's happening around the world. There is this emerging alternative economy. That's kind of what Nick was talking about in his speech. But anyway, I can go on about this all night. But there we go. More super chats. Meanwhile, they want people to vote for Biden, the rapist. Exactly. Right. Tara Reid, the details of her case are very straightforward, and she has been forced into exile, right? And now details are coming to light. It looks like they're going to reveal that they were going to send out an Interpol red notice. Have you seen this article? There's a law firm that is in the process of revealing that apparently Tara Reade was told there was going to be an Interpol red notice for her arrest. Wow. Wow. You know, I support Tara Reade. She is my friend. She has spoken at CPI events. She's a hero. She's an anti-imperialist, and she is has been subject. It shows they don't support victims. They support political manipulation. Much love to Tara Reade. She did nothing wrong. It's a shame she has been driven out of her home country. Say a prayer for Tara Reade's daughter. Say a prayer for Tara Reade's friends and family who are not going to see her now. You know, they have driven her out of the country. The Biden administration has driven Tara Reade out of the country, has driven her into exile because America is a gangster state. Because she refused to shut up about what Joe Biden did to her, and because she made friends with the anti-imperialist countries of the world, Tara Reade has been forced into political exile. Unbelievable. It is absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And now she's been forced to flee to Russia, just like Edward Snowden, just like various cryptocurrency trader guys. She has been forced into exile. It's awful. It's absolutely awful what's happened to Tara Reade. And we stand with Tara Reade. She's a friend of ours, and we support her. All right. Kyle Kulinski sounds like the guy who wrote the Uhuru indictment. Yeah, it's always, you know, these liberals claim they're so anti-racist, right? And they have to, they have to maintain, yeah, we love Black Lives Matter. Woo, woke, woo, we love, but then, like, whenever a black person does something they don't like, it has to be a sinister plot by the Russians. It has to be a sinister plot by Nick Brana, right? Cornel West couldn't possibly want to run against the Democrats. He's just been manipulated by Nick Brana. The Uhuru movement couldn't possibly want to run, run in elections. Oh, it has to be a sinister plot by the Russians, right? It's this condescending liberal attitude, right? It's shocking. Right? It's shocking, right? The Uhuru movement, they've been organizing in their community for so long, but now all of a sudden, all of their community work is a big Russian conspiracy. It's very similar. Cornel West, he's been speaking up. He helped found the goddamn People's Party. He was part of delivering the petition. He's known Nick Brana for years. He's worked with Nick Brana, but oh no, he must never have Googled it. I'm Kyle Kulinski. Oh, with my boy band haircut, riding down the road, sexy Kyle Kulinski. He must not know what he's doing. He must be stupid. Nick Brana's beard brainwashed Cornel West. Exactly. You want to talk about a condescending, racist argument? Oh my God. My God. So there you go. Cornel West actually delivered the petition with Nick. Very good point. Now, someone says Nick Brana is a Chilean name. That is awesome. I did not know he was Chilean. I don't know much about Nick's background. I do know that he's a very dedicated organizer and anti-imperialist. So fascinating. A Chilean. Wow. There you go. There you go. Kyle and Krystal were both telling people not to vote third party. They are 100% in the pocket of BreadTube. Yeah, I noticed right before the election, all the big BreadTubers rolled out their vote for Biden video. It was, ContraPoints and Vosh and Thought Slime and, Luna. They all rolled out there. Why you gotta vote for the Democrats? Well, vote for the Democrats. Oh boy, it's what you gotta do. Gotta vote for the Democrats. You can shout F Biden while you do it, but you gotta vote for the Democrats. Oh boy, Donald Trump is a Nazi. Well, Donald Trump's a Hitler. You gotta vote for the Democrats. That's what you gotta do. Oh boy, I just gotta vote for the Democrats. It's so sad. It's really, 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 really sad. I know Peter Coffin is working on an amazing documentary about the commodification of Marxism. He's taken the BreadTube stuff to another level, showing about how BreadTube is just it's Marxism for sale, basically. It's commodification, right? It's selling Marxism as a commodified identity. It's not building an organization. And it's just great. I've seen some of what Peter Coffin is working on. Go and check out Peter Coffin's upcoming work. You will. He sent me a really great, piece of what he's working on. I don't want to reveal anything. I respect his right to keep things private until they come out, but Peter Coffin is doing an amazing documentary about the commodification of Marxism. You are going to love it. Peter Coffin's work. We love Peter Coffin here. Peter Coffin, a member of the Center for Political Innovation, mind you, made a great documentary linked below about our recent conference. He's always working on great stuff. I love Peter Coffin and I love his work. All right. Next, we got Space LaRouche, Liam, and he says the People's Party, LaRouche, communists, and libertarians. Yeah, there's a new bloc that's forming, right? And it's based on believing in economic growth. It's based on optimism. It's based on opposing World War III and the low-wage police state. Different ideologies, but we all believe in growth. We all oppose war. We all oppose police state repression. That's where you need to be, right? If you are serious about changing American politics, I'm not telling you what party to join. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm telling you need to be with the Rage Against the War Machine people, right? I am on a listserv. Shout out to the people on that listserv that are probably watching right now. Shout out to Irene from the Delaware Libertarian Party. Shout out to a lot of the great people on that chat group. That is where the energy is. That is where the good people are, right? Is on that list with the Rage Against the War Machine people, the LaRouche people, the Libertarian Party, the People's Party, the Center for Political Innovation, the Party of Communist USA. That is where the hope is. The Jimmy Dore folks, the Tulsi Gabbard fans, if you want to make a difference in America, that is where you belong. You belong with those folks, right? That's where you belong, is with those folks. So there you go. That is where you belong if you are serious about changing the world. That grouping, the people who did Rage Against the War Machine, that grouping is the future of America. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. That is the future. And anybody who's not part of that, they call themselves a communist, they call themselves a socialist, forget it. Right? Anyone who boycotted Rage Against the War Machine is a faker, right? Anyone who fell into they're racist, forget it, right? I'm glad that the people who boycotted it did, because that was confirmation that they are not serious, right? Anyone who boycotted Rage Against the War Machine was just basically saying, we're not serious, right? That Rage Against the War Machine rally was way bigger than the Answer rally. The Answer rally was less than 1,000 people. Rage Against the War Machine, some people say it was 13,000. Some people say it was only 5,000, maybe 3,000. It was still, even if it was only 3,000 people, it was still 3 times the size of the Answer Coalition rally, right? And, any leftist, communist, socialist who says, oh, I couldn't go to Rage Against the War Machine, well, they're not serious. They're not a serious organization. I mean, that's how you can tell, right? Right. So there you go. There you go, folks. There you go. Any more super chats are welcome. We're going to keep answering questions here. But that axis of resistance, right? That's what they call it in the Middle East, the axis of resistance, right? Maybe that's what we should call it in America, the axis of resistance. The axis of resistance. So, but that is where you belong. If you really want to change society, if you just want to be on the internet and feel good about yourself, there's plenty of places on the internet for you to do that. But if you really want to change society, that's where the energy in America is right now. Rage Against the War Machine is where the energy is. It ain't with the woke people. It's with that block. That is the future. The Rage Against the War Machine, the LaRouche people, the Libertarians, the People's Party, the Center for Political Innovation, the Party of Communists, those are my people. And I don't agree with y'all on everything, but that is where the hope for America lies. I'm dead serious as I'm saying this. The hope for America right now is in that block of people, right? And look, politics makes strange bedfellows, makes really strange bedfellows. I never in a million years, used to not be able to stand libertarians. Libertarians used to drive me up the wall. But right now, the Uhuru movement are facing 10 years in prison for being anti-war. And libertarians support them, and most communists don't. And you know what? Right now, they're piling weapons into Ukraine, and the libertarians are against it, and most communists aren't. Right now, they have this law called the Restrict Act. That's a huge suppression of civil liberties. And almost all the leftist groups have said nothing about it. Libertarians. So look, libertarians, great. You know, I never thought in a million years that I would be hanging out with the Unification Church, the Moonies. I never thought in a million years that I would talk to them. But you know what? They want to continue what Donald Trump started. They want peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. So we went to their rally that they had at the United Nations. We were there, the New York City Peace March. It was a great intervention that we had. If they have another rally, we'll do the same thing. I never thought in a million years that I'd be hanging out with the LaRouche people. I even wrote a negative article about LaRouche. Did you know this? In 2009, I was assigned by the Workers' World Party to write a hit piece on the LaRouche organization. And I wrote it, and I regret writing it now because I was wrong. And the Workers' World Party has turned into a woke joke. But the LaRouche people, Diane Sayre, their candidate, she's really against the war. She's the anti-war candidate. She's going up and down New York, speaking in defense of China, speaking against the low-wage police state, speaking at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. Politics is changing. Politics in America is really evolving. Strange bedfellows is the name of the game. I really believe that at the end of the day, the liberal order is collapsing on itself. And this is where, we draw from Dugan a little bit, but we also draw from Marxism. And in my new book, again, this book is selling like crazy, right? Over 200 copies of this book have already been sold. And this book is selling like crazy. I went on Kim Iverson's show to discuss it. It's getting a lot of good reviews. Shout out to Tyler McConnell, who's doing the second part of the audio book of it tonight. He's doing the audiobook version of it tonight. But this book I talk about philosophical irrationalism, and in chapter 4 in particular, I talk about philosophical irrationalism. I talk about the fall of the Roman Empire, and I mean, we're seeing the death agony of liberalism in America right now. And it is leading to a weird moment where all illiberalism is starting to join hands. It reminds me, I don't know if you ever read the book Brave New World. There's a great book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And in that book, right, it is about kind of liberalism. It's about the liberalism of modernity. And it's about a guy who's living on a Native American reservation. He breaks free from the Native American reservation and he goes into the liberal society. And he sees that life has no meaning, and that people are just kind of programmed and they're on drugs all the time. And they're just, they take these drugs all the time and they've lost their ability to feel. They don't understand Shakespeare, etc. But he talks about how on the Indian reservation, on the margins of the liberal society, all the religions were together. Jesus and Muhammad and all, and they were all kind of crammed together on the reservations on the margins, whereas the liberal order was against all of them. The liberal order was just this society where people walked around doped all the time. We're in this weird period where all illiberalism, all forces that believe in truth, all forces that believe in right and wrong, all forces that say you should live for a cause higher than yourself, we're all being crammed together against this satanic menace of the liberal order. And liberalism is collapsing in and out of itself, and it's eating itself alive. It's U.S. society is becoming cannibalistic, and illiberalism is what it needs, right? And if this were another era, they would have set up a fascist state. They would have set up some kind of illiberal fascist state, but they can't do that because they have pumped their own philosophical illiberalism, right? Their own radical individualism, their own postmodern pessimism, right? The kind of stuff that Lukács talks about. George Lukács, he talks about the destruction of reason, right? The origins of Ayn Rand, the origins of Friedrich Nietzsche, all of this stuff, right? The ruling class has come out with this radical philosophy that celebrates radical individualism, that views human beings with contempt, right? That says it's the law of the jungle. It says right and wrong don't exist. And they've invented this philosophy to justify what they're doing. But it is a philosophy that ultimately tears civilizations apart. And that is what they are doing. They are literally tearing apart their own civilization, right? And this is the end of the Roman Empire. right? Rome just cannibalized itself, right? And that's what's happening. American capitalism, the collective West that they talk about, Western capitalism is cannibalizing itself with philosophical irrationalism. They can't get their shit together to set up fascism to save their system. And so they're just going to keep cannibalizing themselves. And illiberalism, which is the natural thing that human beings long for, the belief that right and wrong do exist, the belief that, that I talk about how ideology is like a car. When you're driving a car, you know where you're going, you know where you came from, you know how you're getting there, right? That is what human beings need. Every civilization that has ever existed has had ideology. Though we now have a society that says, no, all ideology is bad. Ideology is by definition a bad thing. Our civilization is just coming apart, right? And they're cannibalizing and watching civilization come apart as they try to preserve their rule around the world. And those of us who believe that right and wrong do exist, those of us who don't want money to go to Ukraine, those of us who don't want World War III, despite our differences, our background, we're having to start to join arm in arm against liberalism. And the reason Eurasia is rising is because Eurasia is illiberal. They've learned from the disaster of the Soviet Union, the fall of the Soviet Union, they've learned from the mistakes, and they've started to come together. And that we're starting to see there's a rising illiberal alternative centered around Eurasia that's rising. And I believe that the American spirit, the spirit that you get from Superman, the spirit of John Brown and Harriet Tubman, the spirit of Gus Hall and Huey Newton, I believe that spirit can be revived. And that's our only hope. We need to construct a socialism with American characteristics that can join this new alternative economic order and build a prosperous society. So there we go. Are you familiar with the Communists of Canada and their political influence as American counterparts in the 1930s? Well, I am not as familiar with them as I am with the American communists. I deeply admire Dr. Norman Bethune, the great Canadian communist doctor who went to China and gave his life for the Chinese Revolution. And I also will say that I do, to some degree or other, I appreciate the writings of Tim Buck. And Tim Buck was kind of the leader of Canadian communism. And, Tim Buck was a prominent Canadian communist leader during the 1930s up until the 1960s. And I have actually posted YouTube videos of Tim Buck on my own YouTube channel because I find him to just, Tim Buck kind of incarnated that kind of old school communism, right? I think that Tim Buck is a figure. I enjoy his writing, and I'll show, because you asked, I will show a couple clips of Tim Buck, right? The important, he was the William Z. Foster of Canada. Tim Buck. We'll show a couple videos of Tim Buck. This is 1962. Tim Buck went on a speaking tour. It was around the time the Soviet Union and China were having their falling out. Tulsi was on RFK's Space Today, right? I'll answer that. So yeah, we'll put on a couple clips of Tim Buck. So this is Tim Buck in 1962 when he was on a speaking tour for the Communist Party of Canada. So yeah, where is it here? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I had the wrong name. All right, there we go. All right, here is. Goodness gracious. Okay, here we go. Tim Buck.
And the reason why we can be so certain that the idea that we fight for is the idea that's going to lead the people of our country is because it is the idea of Canada. the people of Canada becoming their own sovereign selves as a nation and leading our country onto the path of peace with all people, friendship with all people, trade with all people, and taking our country out of the camp of imperialist war and fitting it into the camp of peace and progress towards socialism. That's what we're fighting for. We can't lose. We can't lose. And sometimes people say to me, well, look, you talk about taking Canada out of the camp of imperialism and the war.
This is so beautiful. I almost want to start crying. He begins with the Canadian national anthem, patriotic socialism for Canada. And then he starts talking about how they're going to break Canada free from imperialism and into the path of peace and socialism. I mean, I'm not even Canadian, and this moves me. This is what communists used to sound like, folks. This is when our movement was successful. That's how we sounded. We began our meetings with the national anthem. We talked about peace and breaking our country out of imperialism, workers' power. This is our movement, right? This is so beautiful. I'm like tearing up when I hear this. I'm gonna start it from the beginning again, just so you can hear it. This is what real communists used to sound like when we were a real serious political movement. This is what we sounded like.
And the reason why we can be so certain that the idea that we fight for is the idea that's going to lead the people of our country is because it is the idea of Canada becoming, the people of Canada becoming their own sovereign selves.
That's what we want for America. We want the people of America to become our own sovereign selves.
Nation and leading our country onto the path of peace with all people, friendship with all people, trade with all people, and taking our country out of the camp of imperialist war and
taking our country out of the camp of imperialist war, peace with all people, trade with all people. This was our movement.
Fitting it into the camp of peace and progress towards socialism. That's what we're fighting for.
Look at the optimism in his face. Taking our country out of the camp of imperialist war and into the camp of peace and progress towards socialism. And we can't lose. And he's got this grin. It's just so beautiful.
We can't lose. And sometimes people say to me, well, look, you talk about taking Canada out of the camp of imperialism and war into the camp of peace and socialism. How do you know that the Soviet Union won't start a world war? And my answer is quite simple. The Soviet Union can't start a world war because the Soviet people can carry out their program only in peace. The only thing that could prevent it would be war. And I know that you're going to make sure that there ain't no war. There ain't going to be no war no more.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'll show you one more clip of Tim Buck, right? And this is him explaining the Sino-Soviet split. Tim Buck was a great organizer, just a great communist organizer in Canada. And this is what our movement used to be. We used to be serious revolutionaries, who were building a movement for peace, jobs, democracy, and equality. And, oh, man, this is a serious guy.
What about this conflict between Russia and China? Buck has this happen.
And the difference between the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the Communist Party of China is that the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the Communist Party of Canada and all the other communist parties of the world except 3 or 4 emphasize strongly that it is the main line of advance that we've got to strive for. The main line of advance, the maintenance of peace, and the winning of the population of the world to the idea of settling issues by peaceful competition. Whereas the Communist Party of China considers that as a means of making sure that we don't make too many concessions to capitalism and to the imperialist states, We should not flinch away from a little war here or a little war there if we're challenged by the imperialists. Now, there is the difference. There is a difference. It's an important difference. But it's like so many of the differences that we've had in our own party and which continually arise in every political movement. It's a difference of emphasis in the application of a general line agreed upon.
Yeah, he was explaining that Khrushchev said they could have peaceful coexistence with the imperialists. The Chinese Communist Party, on the other hand, was saying that was an illusion. But there we go. The wokes of Canada want to change some of the words to "O Canada," such as "thy sons." These people are unhinged. Well, I mean, in America, they don't want to sing it at all. I mean, at least they want to keep your anthem, right? I mean, in America, I've been told if you wave the American flag, that is proof that you are a Nazi. You know, that we are Nazis because we begin our CPI big conferences. We probably won't do that in July because it's a legal forum and stuff. But you know, our big conferences, we begin with the Internationale, followed by the Star Spangled Banner. And I've had people say that's proof that we're Nazis. I mean, wokes are insane, right? It's not about actually building a movement to make people feel better. It's about stoking resentment and unrest. And, you know, there you go. But anyway, the next super chat question we have here. Tulsi Gabbard was on RFK's space today. And they both said that Russia and China have economies that are conjoined and will fall apart if they split. I don't know what that means necessarily. But, you know, I do know that part of winning the Cold War for the United States was separating Russia and China from each other. That Henry Kissinger, that very much worked very hard to court China as a potential ally against the Soviet Union. That, you know, it started out with the USA courting the Soviet Union and Khrushchev with détente, you know, and basically saying that the Soviet Union will improve relations with you, will do business with you if you can convince people around the world to call off their national liberation struggles and anti-colonial revolutions. So Khrushchev, you know, he made huge concessions. And Mao and China said, we're not going to do that. We're going to support people in the colonized world rising up against the imperialists. And so China, you know, it kind of engineered splits around the world of communist parties that weren't going along with peaceful coexistence. And then the Soviet Union responded by isolating China, cutting off China, at which point then China, you know, then the USA started courting China and started aligning, you know, being friendly to China. And Henry Kissinger arranged for China to enter the U.S. camp in the 1970s. And this was U.S. manipulation, right? The thing is that today, Russia and China are economically tied to one another. China has a huge industrial apparatus. You know, they're producing half the steel in the world. They have the world's largest telecommunications manufacturer, but they need oil and gas. Meanwhile, Russia has a huge oil and gas industry, and the USA is trying to isolate both of the countries. You know, is trying to push both of the countries off the global market. So naturally, they're gonna be friendly toward each other. It's kind of a match made in heaven, right? You know, so it makes sense. You know, when Donald Trump was first running for president, he said, you can't have Russia and China together. My whole life, I've heard you can't have Russia and China together. But Obama has done that. He's pushed Russia and China together. He said that in his interview with Bill O'Reilly. I remember that. I wrote a whole article about it at the time, you know, about the Sino-Soviet split and all of that. And, you know, I remember that. You know, and, you know, I mean, it's interesting. So, you know, but I mean, Russia and China are economically tied to one another. That's true, but there's no danger of them pulling apart, I don't think. Now there's friction there, and I've been to Russia and I've met with folks from China, and not everything's perfect. I mean, the two countries, they have a different culture and different history. They see things in a different way, and that's natural. There's going to be disagreements between each other, right? You know, they were arguing against decoupling. Okay. They were saying that the two countries shouldn't be decoupled from each other. That is interesting. Okay, that's very interesting, right? Because U.S. strategists have long been trying to decouple them. You know, even before Stalin's death during the Korean War, the USA was talking about decoupling Russia and China. So that's very interesting. That's fascinating. I've got to hear this interview. I've got to hear this. That is fascinating to me. John, if you've got a link to that Twitter space, I would love to hear it. That is fascinating to me. But there we go. All right, folks. Well, it's been fun. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notifications bell. They are messing with my subscriptions like crazy. I don't know what's going on, but, we're just going to keep going. We're building this channel. We're building the Center for Political Innovation in our community. So join the Center for Political Innovation. We could use new members. Keep in mind the upcoming workshop that we're doing in Missouri. Love to have you there. Keep in mind the forum that we're going to be doing in New York City. First couple weeks of July, date soon to be announced. We're marching ahead as an organization. We don't endorse any candidate, but we stand with Nick Brana. He's a friend of ours. We don't buy the smears. And on that note, folks, I think that we will wrap this up. I'm going to put on the closing music, but we'll be back. I think we'll be back tomorrow night. It looks like we'll be back tomorrow night. We're doing this as much as we can, right? Got to build this community. Here we go. Upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.